Hey guys, it's Dee Dee. So I have never done a tag video on my channel, and as a palette lover, I'm sure you already know by the title which tag I'm about to do, but as a palette lover, I need to do this tag. I'm sure most of us are palette lovers, but I'm obsessed with palettes. So anyway, I'm going to do that today because it's a fun video. I love watching people that did this tag. I love watching those videos. Excuse me. They're fun. All right. So first of all, I'm looking down because my questions are down here on my table. Best packaging would have to be, I know a lot of people don't like this packaging that Urban Decay does or did on the last two Naked palettes. But I do like this packaging. I feel like it's super sturdy. And I like this packaging. So I think best packaging is Urban Decay Naked 2 and 3, although I don't have Naked 2, so Naked 3. And I couldn't decide. I know this is cheating, but it's my tag video, and so I'll do what I want. Anyway, I know this is cheating a little bit. I couldn't decide between that and the Tarte Be Magnificent palette, because look how beautiful this packaging is. It's super, super sturdy. It's plastic, and it's got this like super shiny lacquered, I can't remember what this is. It looks like a piece of that cut. I can't remember what it is, but it's gorgeous. Just super pretty. This is the palette. These shadows are awesome. They're all matte, of course, and then you get a blush. And you can use these two bottom ones as liners. So I really, really think this is nice, sturdy packaging, no wasted space. And this, behind this is a huge mirror. So I really like that. And I couldn't decide between the two because this one is so pretty and this feels very sturdy to me. I like it. So anyway, couldn't decide between those two. So next is best color payoff. And again, I couldn't decide because this palette, the It Cosmetics Naturally Pretty palette, the matte palette, is amazing. Like the pigmentation and just the feel of these shadows, which I'll swatch a couple. I mean, you barely have to touch these things, and they're just, they're so beautiful. So let me just do a couple here for you. Which one did I miss? I mean, they're just, look at that. Look at that. So, so pretty. So between that one and, sorry, need a wipe here. My Lorac Little Black palette, because, you know, Lorac does make some great shadows, but this palette, I mean, look at these are some of my, I love these shades, first of all, as I make a mess, but you like barely have to touch. These are baked shadows, and I mean the pigmentation of these is insane. Look how opaque that color is. It's crazy. And I'm seriously like barely touching even the light shades, barely touching them, and it's just insane. This one I know swatches everywhere, but it's just insane, the pigmentation on these shadows in the Little Black palette. It's one of my favorite little palettes. I love that. So that for best color payoff, definitely in my collection, those two. Most versatile will probably come as no surprise, but I think it is the Lorac Pro palette. And of course, I think it's so versatile because this entire row at the top is all matte shades, and of course you get all your shimmers on the bottom. It's got a great color selection. So I think this is a great versatile palette because you can do so many good looks because of the color selections, and of course because of the finishes that you get. So I don't see anything except for the color Champagne right here. Looks like it has some flecks of glitter and shimmer. But other than that, all of these at the bottom are shimmers. So most versatile, definitely Lorac Pro. Best for traveling. And I've seen people approaching this question kind of differently. Of course, I like selection when I travel, but one of my most favorite palettes, little palettes ever, is this one from Bare Minerals. It's one of the Ready 4.0 palettes with four. It's a little quad. And this is the Happy Place. And not only do these shadows have some amazing pigmentation and they're like buttery smooth, but the color selection of these four shadows is just so pretty and not something I would pair on my own or pick on my own. So Bare Minerals did it for me. But I love the color combination of this little quad. And of course this little orangey coppery pinky color is stunning. I mean, it's all four shades are beautifully pigmented. You can do a few different looks with just this little quad, and it's tiny, so great for travel. I love that one, and I actually do take it almost every time I travel since I got it. Okay, so biggest regret. These are older, and they are two palettes, but kind of go together. And biggest regret, only not because the shadows aren't good, but I don't know. I'm so on the fence on both of these. It's the Stila Written in the Stars palette and the Stila Snow Angel palette. Tons of colors in this palette. Of course, I think you get Kitten in both of them. The shades aren't on the back. They were on an overlay I had. This is from like 2 years ago, I think. Yeah, 2 years ago. And you get so many shades, but the shades are so hit and miss. And for Stila, I found that really disappointing because I do like Stila's little, you know, their little palettes. Like these are usually really good. So I was really disappointed by the shadows being so hit and miss in both of these palettes. But you can see why I bought it, because there's so many great shades, and this one also has blushes too. So it's just such a bummer that there's so many shades that are either not a great texture, they're flaky, or they're just not pigmented the way that they should be. So these by far are my biggest regret, because they weren't cheap, either of them, when I got them a couple years ago. Best color names. Really it could go between a couple of these palettes that I have, but I really have always really liked the names in the Naked Basics palette. Walk of Shame, Foxy, Naked 2. Naked 2 is an amazing shade. Faint and Crave. I just, when I saw that question, this palette instantly popped into my head. So I think best color names to the Naked Basics little palette. Alright, so least used. My least used palette. Not because it's not a good palette. It's just because I have so many shadows and so many palettes that I just don't find myself reaching for this one very often, and it's the Balms Nude Tude. I remember when I bought this, and it wasn't even that long ago that I bought this. I was so excited because I had been looking for it at my Kohl's stores and nobody had it. And then I was out visiting my brother who lives a little ways away, and the Kohl's out near his house had it, and I was so excited. And I think I've used it like 2 times. It looks, whoops, brand spanking new. The shadows are good. It's not that the shadows are bad, like I said. Some of them don't pack a punch like you think they would, like they appear like they would in the palette. I don't know. I don't know what it is. And I think it's just because I have so many palettes. At least I'd like to think that I didn't waste my money, and that's why I don't use it. But I don't know. I'm going to try to make an honest effort to really give this palette a chance, because it is a very pretty palette. Most used would absolutely be my MAC palette. I don't know if this is cheating or not because I created this palette, but the top row, this top row, and then I forget the names. I had them all written down. Unlike my old MAC palette, this one has the clear top. I had one of the older palettes, and I had stickers. The one I left that palette in Florida, but I had the names all on the top, so I can't remember all of these. I know the ones on the bottom. But this whole entire top row gets used at least, I mean, almost every time I put a look on, if I'm not using a palette, one of these palettes. But I use this so often, and definitely by far one of my favorites. So that is definitely my most used, my MAC palette with my MAC shadows. Well, one of my MAC palettes, but this is definitely the most used MAC palette I have. Most loved. This was so easy for me because before the chocolate bar palette came along, these shades, when I saw this palette and I purchased this palette, I went to Ulta specifically looking for the Rock Pro and got this one first because as soon as I saw it, I was like, I will use every single shadow in this palette. And there is not a look that I have done with this palette that has been anything less than beautiful. I mean, every shade in here, these are just my shades. I know that this palette isn't for everybody because this is a pretty specific tone in this palette. Rosy tones, warm kind of neutrals, and I love warm neutrals, but this palette is by far my most loved, and aside from my MAC palette, my most used. I love this palette, and the only reason I don't use it as much anymore is because I'm trying to share the love between my palettes. But this will always be, in my heart, one of my absolute favorite all-time palettes. I love this palette. I know that this question was most used, most loved, Desert Island, but I separated the questions because I wanted to show you more palettes. So this would be my most loved. Desert Island palette was very hard not to pick my unzipped palette. The only reason I didn't pick it was because I think that if I were on a desert island, I would want my chocolate bar palette. Because they smell like chocolate, number one, but because there's more versatility with this palette, and I feel like if I was on a desert island, you know, I might get tired of the warm neutrals. I don't know that that would ever happen, but I might get tired of them. And I do have some warm neutrals in my chocolate bar palette, and I'm like, oh, smelling them for me. You know what? When I put this on my eyes, I can still smell it on my face, and it is awesome. I love that. But definitely a desert island palette for me for sure. And then maybe you could eat them. I don't know. I wouldn't, well, I don't know. I smell them and I'm like, I just want to eat you. Well, no, they'd probably be disgusting. But maybe it could come in handy as maybe a, I don't know, supplemental food source if you're on a desert island. I don't know. If any of you have tried to eat your shadows in your chocolate bar palette. No, I'm totally kidding. Anyway, we all know about the chocolate bar palette. It's absolutely stunning. It's beautiful. I love every single shade in here. And it's just versatile. So yes, this could be one of the most versatile palettes I have as far as neutrals go. And as you can tell, I'm a true lover of neutrals, probably like most of us. But definitely my Desert Island palette, 100% this one right here. So anyway, that, my friends, was my perfect palette tag. If you guys do YouTube videos, you guys should totally do this if you haven't done this already. I know this tag came out a while ago, but it's really fun. It took me a while. I thought this was going to be an easy tag for me, and it totally wasn't. But anyway, I would encourage you, as I have shadow now all over me, I would encourage you to do this if you're a YouTuber and do videos. Do this. Nurse New Jersey, and I don't know if Nurse New Jersey, have you done this, Nurse New Jersey? If you haven't, you're tagged now. So, and also, Michelle from LMBH, I can't remember her name, but I'm going to put those names below. You guys are tagged, as well as I'll tag a couple other people down there. Thank you guys so much for watching. I hope you have a great week, and I will talk to you again soon. Have a good one.